Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Hope everyone is doing well.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so today's session is for, we're halfway through, or even more than halfway. This is again one of those important sessions. This is on operations and maintenance. This is one of the important modules. This module talks a little bit more direct relevance to CFM rather than just the managerial aspect of things. So this refers to the operations and maintenance. Again, I think you know by now that CFM or IFMA doesn't intend to teach people technical things such as how to do the maintenance of a chiller, but this module talks about just let me, just a second, please. Yeah, so again, I have to repeat because I wasn't recording. So today's session is about operations and maintenance. This module goes a little bit more into the philosophy behind our operations and maintenance as facility managers. Again, we're not expected to go into the technical details of the things, but we need to understand what's the underlying philosophy behind them. So when we're talking about operations and maintenance, how to handle operations, what's the best practice to utilize for operations. So to start, as usual, we go into a general overview. So according to IFMA, the primary role of facility managers is to manage / oversee an operating facility. If you remember the definition of facility management, our job as facility managers is to do whatever we need to do, the multidisciplines that we need to incorporate in terms of management, in terms of dealing with contractors, dealing with our own staff, and all of this is done for the purpose of the operation of the built environment. So this is something that's very important. So that's why a facility manager's primary role is to manage or oversee an operating facility. A facility manager can be involved at the time of construction of a facility, will be involved, as we saw, in the strategic planning of a facility. When we talked about the larger picture, a facility manager, let's say, they will be involved from the day one in which an organization wants to expand or contract. To be part of an operational facility, the facility managers must have a working knowledge. What does that mean, a working knowledge? So if you saw, again, the philosophy of IFMA, we're covering general management principles with a little bit insight into the technicalities of facility management. In this module, we're talking about a little bit more technical details about these systems. And it says that you see that facility management is multidisciplinary. Civil engineering is involved, the structure itself, electrical, mechanical, low voltage systems, CCTV systems, and so on. Valet parking services, catering services, soft cleaning services, landscaping works, and many things. So no one is expected to have an in-depth knowledge of all of those. It will be great if you have someone, but in practice, it doesn't happen. But what a facility manager should have is what we call as a working knowledge. So working knowledge means that they should understand what are the basics of each of these disciplines, okay? If someone comes and says that, okay, that the ELV system or a building management system, what does that mean? Is it something like out of this world for you now? Or is this something that you're a little bit familiar with? Some people know it, some people don't. So this module will cover that. So you should have a working knowledge of building systems, structure, interiors and exteriors, and the grounds, so that the facility and all of its required systems function efficiently, reliably, safely, securely, and in a manner consistent with the existing regulations and standards. So the whole aim of this knowledge is to be able to secure the operation of the facility. We saw that the operation, we measure efficiency, effectiveness, safety, security should be always a part of our consideration, and most importantly, legal compliance in a manner consistent with the existing regulations and standards. So operations and maintenance overview. What's the difference between operations and maintenance? Operations, it involves assuring that the facility's infrastructure provides a satisfactory work environment, complies with the laws and regulations, meets financial performance goals, reflects efficient utility services and costs, and protect the surrounding community and environment. So operation is that we're looking at the facility's infrastructure. So the whole facility's infrastructure, whether it's for the electric, water, the building itself, is it a crumbling building or not? How does it operate? It says like provides a satisfactory work environment, or it might not be a work environment. So in the case of an office, it can be a satisfactory work environment. But in the case of a hotel, it's that what we call the mission essential function. Are we able to sustain through our operations the mission essential function of a hotel or a stadium or wherever? Are we able to comply with the laws and regulations? So your operations, this is a key part of it. You cannot be expected to be a good facility manager, let's say operating in Qatar, and you are not really taking into consideration the civil defense requirements or the Kahrama requirements, the compliance, meeting the financial performance goals. So is my building really being energy efficient? Am I really paying unnecessary costs? Reflects efficient utility services and costs, and protects the surrounding community and environment. This module, we covered it in the sustainability. Like we are part of our community, we need to always take that into consideration. Maintenance is that deals with assuring that all elements of the infrastructure, so operations and maintenance are interlinked. Okay, why we do maintenance? Why do we maintain our cars? Can anyone answer? Why do we do maintenance in general?
And to keep the building functions operated well, without any issues or without any problems.
Yes. First of all, you to do maintenance, two things. One, you are upkeeping the condition of the existing systems. This is number one. So that you are ensuring that, okay, the elevators are running, the generators standby are running, and so on. So you are securing that they are upkeep. You are upkeeping them. You are seeing if there is a problem in it, you are repairing it. Maintenance is two types, and we will go into this. Two main types. There are more details. So it's called a preventive maintenance or corrective maintenance. Corrective maintenance is that where we are operating, let's say, and then one elevator button gets damaged, so you go and repair it. This is preventive. This is corrective maintenance, I'm sorry. Corrective maintenance is that when you correct something that has gone faulty. Preventive maintenance, on the other hand, is something that you do in anticipation. You go and check, you change. A perfect example for the maintenance thing is that of vehicle. And this is something that I will be utilizing as we move along, because we can make a relevant sense into this. Why do we change the oil of the vehicle every 5,000 to 10,000 kilometers? Why we go there and we check that the systems are functional? It's operational. Every day you go and start it, it's operational. But when we do this preventive maintenance, we go and do these checks, okay? We are securing the integrity of the vehicle so that it doesn't all of a sudden collapse. So we are taking preventive measures ahead of time to check item 1, 2, 3, 4, and to secure that the upkeep of this. So similarly for buildings, if you're doing this preventive maintenance, you are really trying to prolong the life of the assets that you have. You are trying to prevent as much as you can unwanted shutdowns and interruptions of building systems. Who wants to enter a hospital which the AC is not working in it? who wants to enter a hotel which the hot water is not working in it, and so on. So that's why maintenance is interlinked with operations, and maintenance we will see that we always prefer to make it much more routine as possible. Always there gonna be some corrective maintenance, but if we're doing our preventive maintenance efficiently, we are reducing the likelihood of having unpredicted corrective or emergency maintenance. So when we go into the systems, we start with the building infrastructure. So what does the building infrastructure include? It consists of the building systems. Let's say it starts with the building structure. The structure itself, we will look into the definitions of it. So the structure, which is the civil part of the structure, whether it's a wooden or a steel structure or a concrete structure. So this is the core of the building. This is the base. This is the skeleton of the building. And then we talk about the building systems. What are the building systems? Building systems are the electrical, mechanical components of the building, or as we call them, the MEP in general. So there are different types of building systems. We're going to be covering them. So, and this is what, so if the building structure is the skeleton, the building systems are the core of the building. They are the heart. They are the organs of the building. You cannot have a functioning facility without electricity running properly in it, or having HVAC running through it. Depending, okay, of course, but in general, we're talking about, I'm not talking about a cottage in somewhere in a tropical place where you can live without the AC. But in general, functional buildings need to have these building systems in them. Interior elements. Interior is also a part of facility management. This include the furniture, the fixtures, and the equipment. The exterior envelope. What's the exterior envelope? We will look into the definition of that. The exterior envelope is what's keeping the outside environment from affecting the inside. So these include the walls, the roof, and includes the cladding if we have, and so on. Separate structure and grounds. These are the outside the structure elements, such as the hardscaping outside. We will cover all of this. Facility management is at the center of occupant needs. Business and communication processes, management and workflow technologies, and the physical infrastructure itself. So at the heart of all of these systems is facility management. If you have stadiums tomorrow for the World Cup, these are going to be heavy utilized buildings. These are going to be housing each one of them 80,000 people, with lots of systems there to secure. What's the mission essential function? Is to allow the players to have the match, to allow the spectators to enjoy it properly, to allow the TV cameras from recording it properly, and to do so in an efficient and safe manner. So it's like a huge operations, allowing people 1 or 2 hours before the match, or even more, to come and go in smoothly, go out smoothly. We have to do all of this without having security breaches or threat to the life of the people and of the players, and without having interruption. So facility, I just gave this example. So facility management is at the heart of these. If there's a problem with the infrastructure itself, if there's a shutdown in the CCTV systems, if there's a shutdown, all of this will be compromised. So facility management is at the center of occupant needs. If you don't have this, you will not have the occupant needs met. Similarly, for a hotel, a 5-star hotel, or any hotel for that end, a visitor is expecting to receive a certain kind of cleanliness, a certain signs of noise control, smells, the whole experience. They're going for a hotel for a reason, to rest, or sometimes for recreation. So all of this, the facility management is at the heart of. To accomplish their duties, facility managers should have a detailed and complete management plan. Plans generally begin at high strategic level and proceed to the ever greater detail of tactics to accomplish the strategy. we saw last time when we talked about strategy is how we move from the general organization and what's the strategy of the organization? What's the strategy of, for example, we mentioned the stadium. So in Qatar, the strategy of FIFA and whatever, there's a certain level of quality required in terms of the operation of the facility. And because even if it's in Qatar, the country went out and beyond, and even the development of the facilities themselves, they are the first open, refrigerated or cooled stadiums in the world done at this scale. So if you look at the strategy, they want to create a wow, an impressive factor. So for that end, the facilities are managed with that sense. So they are not taking shortcuts. No one is taking shortcuts in anything. They are securing that whatever needs to be done has to be done, and that there is very low tolerance for lack of performance in any aspect. To create O&M tactics, so we see how it goes from the general strategy up to the tactics. What are the tactics that are needed to accomplish the strategy? To create operation and maintenance tactics, facility managers must determine physical assets at an inventory, determine the maintenance and repair cycle. So we will see how, for us to determine the tactics. Now in this module, we're talking about operations and maintenance. We're talking about physical steps to be taken. We're not talking about theories about management and whatever. So to start, first of all, we need to have an assets list, physical assets. Normally, those of you who are already in facility management know that when you want to start a contract for a new facility management, or you're, let's say, taking over from construction for your own facilities, you will start by taking over with the assets list. So the assets list is that I'm taking over the management of what? What does it include? How many chillers are there? What kind of systems are there? What kind of things I need to take into consideration? So this is, it starts with to determine the OM tactics. Even when we are asked to quote for the new maintenance of a certain new facility, the first thing that we ask for is that the asset list. Okay, determine the maintenance and repair cycle. So based on the assets that you have, what's the maintenance and repair cycle that you have? To make it simple for you. So for example, we have these chillers, okay, this model. Every how many hours shall I do preventive maintenance for these? Every how many hours shall I change the oil? Every how many hours shall I do a recoiling? And so on. So, and we do it for all of our equipment. What is the maintenance and repair cycle for this? Because it changes. Yes, Abdurrahman. Ahmad.
About the maintenance and repair cycle, how can I know it? Who determine it? How can I know? Yani, for chiller, is it annual or semi-annual or quarter annual?
How do you know it's for your car?
By the catalog or manual or something. Or ask the manufacturer.
Similarly, you do it for the other items like this by the manufacturer recommendations as a start. And then when you become more experienced, you will develop your own systems, and there is something like optimization on maintenance schedules and so on. But usually you start with the manufacturer recommendations for all of the items that are there.
Manufacturer recommendation, okay. Also, mostly after the contract is for 100 days for maintenance. Now, yani, is it you recommend to bring still maintenance staff or facility management, or after the 400 days they can start?
A contractor, this is the mentality. A contractor, the defect liability period which they have, they are not, usually they get it, proper companies, they get it before the 400 days for sure. The moment the mall is operational or the building or facility is operational, they should get a facility management, because the contractor is not really interested in the upkeep of the equipment at the most efficient thing. He's interested to keep them running to a point where he will hand over to you and go out. He's not interested in the longevity of it or the lifespan of it. So usually they should be there before the handover.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Sheikh?
Hi, I wanted to know the hardscaping. Is it different from landscaping? Or what was it?
We are coming to that. It will be defined.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and hardscaping is different from the landscaping. So the difference between the hardscape and landscape. So the landscape are the green areas. The hardscape are the pavements and structures which are outside the building. So this is the difference between the two. So we will see that visually as we move ahead. So,
Hello.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to give one recommendation for this previous question from Mr. Abdul
Okay.
Rahman.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, yeah, it has happened with me that, as you said, the FM facility management team should come before the handover. Because last time when I claimed for one warranty, which was under DLP, they asked me the service reports and all the PPM reports. What means if you are doing the periodic maintenance or not. So if you are not having that, they are not giving the DLP with some brands.
Yeah. This is, and from an operations perspective, this is the mentality which will be changing here. Is that facility maintenance is not about waiting for an equipment for it to be broken down for you to operate it. It's not about only maintenance. It's about facility management. It's not called facility maintenance. It's called facility management. Maintenance is just one part of it. Okay, so thank you, Fahad. Based on the maintenance and repair
Okay.
schedule and the equipment that we have, we determine the maintenance schedule, the planned and unplanned. Determine applicable regulations, codes, and standards. So, again, the requirement for maintenance can be at certain instances ruled by the local regulations. So let's say even if a water, theoretically, let's say a firefighting equipment, the manufacturer tells you, okay, you can test it every 2 years. Theoretically, I'm saying. Here there are regulations. No, you need to test it in shorter span than that, and they will come and inspect you every 1 year. So you need to see which applicable codes and regulations and standards are there. If you're operating in the oil and gas, it can be more rigorous. And let's say you're operating in a certain jurisdiction, you're expected to do more thorough checks of that. Determine agreed upon occupant services and requirements. So here we talked about the operation and maintenance. We talked about first the physical assets. What are they? What's the maintenance and repair cycle of those? Based on those, we determine the maintenance schedule. To incorporate on that the required regulations, codes, and standards. So different countries have different codes for the firefighting, for the CCTV even. Here the CCTV, for example, is not a standalone thing. It is linked with the government and there should be certain requirements. Even the type of equipment that you utilize is regulated by the government, the cables which you utilize and so on. And then on top of that, we add what are the agreed upon occupant services. So other than managing the core of the building, which is the systems, there are occupant services, which is under facility maintenance, such as valet parking services, such as the cleaning services, such as the maybe mail services, such as concierge services. So what is within our scope? So determine the agreed upon occupant services and requirements. How frequently you want that, to what level, and so on. Building structures are the construction elements that support. So we go into the definition of these items now. I've already talked about them, but now we will go into this. So we start first with the building structure. We're talking about the civil part of it. So what is the building structure? Building structures are the construction elements that support the architecture. They enable buildings to resist forces of users, nature, and the equipment that maintains the structure's living comfort. So it's the core structure of the building. The structure of the building is what do civil engineers do? They design to make sure that the building can withstand the elements. What does the elements mean? They can withstand. If we are in a situation prone area, there are different regulations than in Qatar, for example. So it can, the nature, like the earthquakes, wind, rain, and whatever, and the forces of users. So if I'm designing, let's say, for an airport, I'm have much more load to take into consideration than if I'm designing an office space. So again, the size of the piling, the size of the footings, the size of the foundation depends on that. If we look at the detailed elements of these building structures, okay, we have at the very basic hardcore of it, the foundations. What are the foundations? Foundations are the drilled piers and shafts, driven and bored piles, shallow spread and strip footings. So these are the foundations. So all of those are the foundations. There are different foundations. This is not a civil course again, but you understand what's the foundation. So the foundation is the base upon which the building is there. So there are sometimes slabs as a foundation, or pillars, or sometimes even you have to do deep piling, and you have to drill under the ground and do some piling works. So the foundation also has a substructure. This is the substructure. Okay. Below grade frame, structural concrete framing and wall steel framing. So this is the substructure. This is the below the ground. Superstructure, cast in place concrete, prefabricated precast concrete columns, beams and joists, steel frame with trusses, beams, wood for low-rise construction. Okay. Floor slabs, the floor slabs, these are the floor slabs, are part of the superstructure. So the superstructure has the floor slabs, as well as, let's say we have columns here. These are all part of the superstructure. The walls are not part of the superstructure. We will see that. We're talking about the building skeleton now. So the substructure, and we have the superstructure. When we are taking over, 7 new messages, wow. Okay. Okay, means the basement, is it correct? Not really correct. The substructure means the below grade. So the basement can be a part of it, okay? Building structures are, so the first part, when we are, I say, after we are taking over the building, okay? The first part of operation and maintenance is that you take over. If it's a new construction and you are the developer, you take it from the contractor. Like the guys have mentioned, the defect liability period. Usually in contracting, after you finish construction, there's something that's called defect liability period, in which the contractor is bound to rectify whatever was there within a specified period. Usually here it is 400 days. So this is what we call the defect liability period. So, and let's say even it can be an operational building, and we went and acquired it. We were Coca-Cola, and there was a building in Qatar, and we went and acquired that building. So the first thing we get the asset list, as we said earlier. We looked at the equipment maintenance schedule and whatever. But it's very important to do a condition assessment, because irrespective of the age of it, sometimes it can be a building which is 20 years, which is well maintained, and which will have a certain maintenance requirement carrying it forward. Very similar to a car. When you buy a car, let's say a second-hand car, the frequency of maintenance and the way the conditions of the system will depend on the initial condition of the vehicle. So building structures are not visible to casual observation. In a sense, all aspects of a facility infrastructure should undergo a thorough assessment, so that the facility manager, why do we do an assessment? One, we should be aware of the condition of everything related to the facility, and we can develop a comprehensive work plan that repair, maintain, or whatever. So if we look at, let's say, the historical records, and we find out that chiller number 5 has always been causing problems historically. So maybe I need to incorporate more preventive maintenance for that chiller. So because we start from the initial condition and we move on. And also it's important to do that so that we can identify when to schedule preventive maintenance and how to recognize and correct out-of-line conditions so that we can maintain systems and components within operational specifications to sustain and improve efficiency. What are again, you're not expected to be a specialized civil engineer, but you are expected to know the working knowledge of the terms and the terminologies that we are using there. And one of the most common things, as they said that in civil structures, it's you cannot really see the foundation. Now you are sitting at homes and you cannot see the foundation of the building. You cannot see the main wall. You can maybe observe them, but you cannot look at the conditions inside, what's happening. But we look for signs of deterioration. These deterioration mainly happen in cracks in the interior and exterior works, cracks that are running diagonally along the mortar joints, differential displacements of floor slabs of joints. So if there's a shift in the structure, let's say if it's a steel structure or a wooden structure, again, separation of corners at windows or where the walls meet, standing water or pools collected near facility during or after rain. Again, this can be an indication. If we see like a pool of water, why it's happening? Because supposedly when constructed, everything should be level and built in a certain inclination. So if there is pool collection, maybe there's an underlying structural problem beneath that. So we're looking for the signs. Evidence of moisture penetration, such as leaking and dampness, nail or screw heads popping out of interior partitions can show a displacement behind that. Unusual cracks in floors, ridges in tile or below carpet. So we're looking for all signs. Deterioration events such as corrosion, chemical reaction, decay, or insect infestation. We don't face it here, but insect infestation can be very dangerous to structural components in wooden buildings. Termites can come and destroy a very big facility if it's constructed out of wood. Health and safety considerations. In addition to the structural integrity, all of these can lead to consideration of, let's say, main thing is moisture in walls or beneath roofs can promote mold, algae, or other conditions that affect the air quality. We covered this in the indoor air quality. Sometimes you enter a place and you have this ugly smell of dampness. So other than having an ugly smell, this is very bad for our own health. Decay or deterioration of wood. So this can have a visual impact on them, but more dangerously, they can have an underlying structural integrity problem. You've seen movies or even live videos of how big buildings collapse because maybe mistakes in the design, maybe sometimes an overload, or misuse of operation. A few years back, we had one huge building in Lebanon collapse, and it collapsed because they had put a factory there, and these equipment were creating vibration beyond the design tolerance of the building. So one night, the full big building collapsed. Unwanted openings or deterioration around doors or caps. Doors that do not fit squarely can produce energy leaks. So the health and safety cracks can indicate unsafe shifts in the structure itself. Unwanted openings reduce energy efficiency and occupant comfort. If you're having a leak, definitely you're utilizing more energy to keep the place cold or hot, depending whatever you're doing. This is what we call as energy leak. Okay. Doors that do not fit squarely can produce energy leaks as well as security leaks. Again, these can be loopholes for security. Loose or weak or missing railings can cause trip and fall hazards or other safety issues. So for example, let's say you have a high-rise building with balconies. if you have a loose railings, that's something very dangerous. It can create what you say, people falling down and killing, ending up dead if you have a loose railing. So leaking or standing water can damage equipment, electrical systems, and produce unsafe conditions. So you have a crack in the wall. We see it during the raining times in Qatar. So sometimes we end up from a flood. It will be from a minor inconvenience that can become very dangerous health issue. You will be having an electric shock hazard. Facility exteriors. So we talked about the structure itself, and now we're talking about the facility exteriors. Facility exteriors include the building envelope. So this is maybe a new definition to many of you, as well as structures separate from the building. So the building envelope is a common term for the systems that keep the weather and noise out and the heat and cooling in. It generally includes elements such as facades, curtain walls, exterior walls, windows, skylights, and roofs. So everything that's in touch with the elements outside, this is what we call the building envelope. So it includes the roof, it includes the walls, it includes the windows, the windows outside, it includes everything that's in touch with the outside environment. The curtain walls, the aluminum cladding, let's say, over a building, this is part of the building envelope. Some common deficiencies to look for among exterior elements: deteriorating wall. These are for, yes.
Question, can I ask a question? Kindly, can you go back one slide? The health. Okay. Yes, health and safety consideration. For all these defects, Mr. Baha, what I am seeing, you are not requiring facility management. I think you need renovation.
Yeah. And who handles this renovation?
Perhaps contractor company.
Who hires the contractor?
Client.
The client. Who's managing the building for the client?
Facility.
Okay. Ahmad, maybe you're not having a practical experience in that. All of these are under facility management. Client, someone who is running a hospital, okay, is not, it's operational now. You're used to construction sites. You know, the guy who is at the hospital, the general manager of the hospital, understands absolutely nothing about facilities. So that's why he goes and hires a facility management company. And a facility management company will look at all of these things for them.
Excuse me, facility management can estimate, but at the end, the facility management will not make renovation. They will try to convince the client to make a company for renovation. Or is it from the role of the facility management
under the responsibilities and duties of the facility management company? A facility management company can decide to destroy and demolish the building. They can hire the contractor. This is all under the scope of facility management.
So you mean they have the authority, responsibility to say that this building cannot be live in. We have to make renovation like that. That's under the facility, under the authority.
That's why you will see again, one of the modules that we were going to discuss is called project management.
Okay.
As a facility manager, okay, you can be hiring other project managers. No one said that you have to do it. Some companies do it in-house, and you're saying that you need a contractor. I'm not saying no. Yes, okay, you need a contractor, but who hires that contractor? Who tells the building owner that you need a contractor? Who is there every day on the building ground? Facility manager.
Yeah, connection between the contractor and the client, like that.
No, the client himself, for him to manage his own building, don't look at it contractually only. The client himself, for him to understand his building, he will have a facility manager from his side, whether it's a company which he hired or it's an individual which he has in-house. This function of assessing the building needs for renovation, for change, is a facility management what do you say, activity.
Stability. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're talking about the building envelope. This is much easier to spot the problems in a building envelope. Why? Because it's outside, it's visible. Some of it are not visible. For example, the roof conditions during rain and whatever. So, for example, Ahmad, you can have a roof which needs a total replacement. Okay, who can determine that? It's a function of facility management. Let's say one of the preventive maintenance that we can keep is that we can do a leak test of the roof, let's say every 2 years. And based on the leak test, we go and say, okay, either we need to do a partial repair or we're going to recommend, let's say, replacement of the roof. And it is gone now into operations. The building has gone into operations. It's not at the construction phase. You cannot keep, you will need contractors, yes, not an issue, but who's handling that function is the facility management. And we're talking about facility management discipline, not necessarily the company which is handling it. So some common deficiencies to look for among exterior elements: deteriorating wall, roof, and other surface conditions. Again, cracks, peeling, rotting, moisture and condensation, spills, stains, ill-fitting, so misaligned windows, poor joints, anchoring, ventilation, and lighting. This is much more easy to spot. That's why when you go and see a building, you'll be able to say, approximate, oh, this looks like a very old building. If you go and see a building in pristine condition, the outside conditions of it, let's say the West Bay, the buildings are not old, but some of the buildings, the older buildings, if you look at West Bay, you see, for example, peeling. Peeling is very visible. Moisture is very visible. Sometimes cracks in older concrete structures are very visible. Stains, you can see them very, very visibly. So we talked about the core structures, we talked about the building envelope, and now we talk about the heart of the building, which is the building systems. So building systems refer to the complete physical facility, including all equipment, materials, and components. Examples include lighting systems, transport systems. So this is all what we call them, what we are familiar with here as MEP systems. Question, part of sustainability. Arnold, what's part of sustainability?
Boss, the question before that corrupted or something, is it a part of sustainability for the building, boss?
What's part of sustainability?
Before there is a question, boss, that is a part of is it a part of this scope of facility management?
Sustainability?
Yeah, and I also ask if that is a part of sustainability, the corroded building, the structure.
Yeah, but it's sustainability, as we saw, is that we're looking at the efficiency and the effectiveness of this. We're trying to utilize this is what we mean by sustainability. So this is the operation and maintenance. They are interlinked for sure. Why they are interlinked? So let's say when we go, sometimes, people will accept, let's say you're having a warehouse in the industrial area. The client really doesn't look about the shape of it as long as it's functional in certain areas. Okay. But let's say when you go and you do a sustainability study of the energy consumption there, you find out, for example, that there is the paint, because it has lost its there are sometimes this heat insulating paint. Okay, they are having to pay more to cool the system. So when you look at it, then you say, no, you need to repair all of these heat leaks which you have in the building. So you can have them interlinked. Okay. So we continue. So we look at the systems. We're looking at the systems. So these are the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. The lighting system is one of them. So the lighting system is one of them. Lighting system considers the both for natural and artificial sources to provide adequate illumination for the core business function. So the lighting system is not only the electrical part, the natural lighting is part of the lighting system. Transport systems are systems that convey people, mail, trash, and waste, food, freight, and hazardous material. So the elevators, the travelators, the escalators. An important point to consider is that the stairs are not part of the transport system. Okay, this is as per the definition of IFMA. The stairs is not part of the transport system. Fire suppression and life safety. Yes, Firas.
Garbage chute, for example, it's a part of the transport system?
Yes, trash.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Fire suppression and life safety system. So everything related to the fire suppression, active and passive systems. What's an active fire suppression and what's a passive fire suppression system? Passive systems are items which are built into the design, which are done so that they don't have to be activated to prevent from a fire. So this includes the walls, the floors, ceilings, beams. Sometimes, you know, even in Qatar, the civil code, of course, regulates this. There are lots of passive systems. So let's say you have a genset in your building. You're supposed to put the diesel tank into a retaining wall around it, which is 10% capacity, more than the full capacity of the tank itself. So this is a passive system. So it doesn't have to be activated. This is in case there's a leak, it will contain it. Active systems, on the other hand, include fire sprinkler, smoke control, and the fire detection system. So the active and passive fire alarm systems are part of this. Commitments affecting the operations and maintenance. Yeah, Ahmad Abdul Rahman, yeah. Can I hire one for what's OME for MEP and one architecture? Yes. What do you mean? Ahmad, can you please?
If I am a manager now, facility manager, for instance, the question that for electrical, for MEB, I hire one engineer, and for other like the cracks, like that stains, that architecture, another one, or can be only one for all? Can sufficient? Because my point of view, perhaps the electrical or the mechanical will not understand the issues for architecture, for civil. So, my point of view.
Tell me. See,
my point of view for one for MEB and one for architecture and civil issues. Is it correct, or can be one for all?
No, usually it depends on the complexity of the building itself. Okay, let's say if you are managing compounds, okay, maybe you decide that you will, it's not, I have one engineer and I can have technicians who can take care of this. But let's say if I'm having a bigger facility, if I'm having, for example, if you are hired to handle the facility maintenance of all the stadiums of Qatar, you're gonna need specialized people in many different areas. Not even electrical. Even in electrical, you will need to hire an ELV team, and you need to hire a high voltage team, and you need to hire and so on. So you can see it changes depending on the complexity of the situation.
Depending on the building itself or the surface.
What facility are you handling? Yeah, but in general, it depends on you as a facility manager. Are you going to be subcontracting these core systems out? Some facilities, let's say even here in Qatar, there are a few companies which are doing total facility management or integrated facility management, where one company will be providing everything, where they will be providing the hard services and soft services as well. Okay, many decide, okay, I will give the hard services, maintenance of the MEP systems to one company, the soft services another company, security another company, and so on. So it depends on who's handling what.
Please, I have a question.
Contractor and subcontractor, yani.
What?
It's like main contractor and subcontractor, yani. I am the main contractor, for instance, but for facility
Yes.
management, and I will
Yes.
hire some. Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's what happens in practice.
Yes.
Yes, Nwaribe.
Yeah, in facility management,
Mm.
when would they take over, for instance? Is it during building, like we're doing construction now? Is it during the building that they can also hire a facility manager, or after the building has been completed? Or would they be there to see the effectiveness and the efficiency of the building? That's my question.
Okay. By theory, you can hire a facility manager at any time. It depends on the organization and the way you look at it. In several organizations, big organizations, a facility manager is involved from the beginning, from the design of the building, and going throughout of this. And they will have not necessarily dedicated for the project, but let's say depending on the size of the building, let's say it's a company which builds hospitals all over the world and operates them, okay? Or factories, you know, such as Procter & Gamble. They'll have a facility manager involved from day one in the design of the building, in all of this. And others, not necessarily. Even now, I know sometimes, like, this is the golden question: when do we get the facility management company on board? Again, it depends on the organization and the practicality of it, because it means more costs, of course. But definitely having a facility manager earlier on, and it will make the design even more efficient.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
So anytime. So environmental insan soil tank is necessary to absorb. It's you are asking me, Krishna, a very technical question. Is sand, soil, gravels under the tank necessary to absorb any leakages? You are asking me a very technical question, which I cannot answer you, frankly. And it's irrelevant, I find. You can ask one of the specialized guys who are there to answer. Necessary to absorb any leakages? No, don't worry, you can answer me. But this is just another example. No problem, Krishna Kumar. But this is just another example. This is not a technical course. It depends. So even Fahad answered you yes. Maybe the civil defense here has a different requirement than the fire authorities in the States. So you cannot say yes or no or whatever. So we're trying to teach you how to handle the management of systems in general. Yes, Fahad.
So, yeah, actually, this issue already happened with me. The problem with me is that in my diesel tank, I am getting water inside. So it is vice versa. If the waterproofing of the diesel tank is not proper, so you can have leakages in your diesel tank, and the sand and soil can go mix. The oil can go in the soil and vice versa.
Fine. Thank you for your input, Fahad. But this is what I'm saying is that this is not a technical course.
Yeah.
Then I will open it now, and someone will come and ask me what is the requirement to do a Megger test on wires. This is not the place to say it. So here we talk about operations in general and the philosophy behind it. These technical details can be decided by the people on site and by the legal requirements. A commitment to sustainable facility management practices affects operation and maintenance activities across building systems. Sustainable processes and activities ensure that the creation and use of the built environment does not harm the natural environment. So you see, guys, that the sustainability is at the heart of the philosophy. And this is to you, Arnold. This is we covered that in a specific separate thing, and in our decision, so we're talking about the triple bottom line. Sustainability is where the planet, people, and profit are being taken care of. A proper operation and maintenance, of course, sustainability is part of it. Even in the processes of the sustainability of the operation and maintenance, you can use sustainable or unsustainable practices. A simple thing is that, let's say, utilization of cleaning rags for equipment. You can use cloth rags which are reusable or you can go for an unsustainable practice where you use thick tissue rolls. So sustainability is everywhere. Workplace safety, again, so these are the commitments. So IFMA is reminding us of our commitments to the operation and maintenance. Okay, we're talking about the commitment to the environmental sustainability and the commitment to safety. And if you remember when we were discussing the workplace, it was mentioned that safety and security should be reviewed, should be at the heart of operations of a facility manager. Wherever they introduce a new process or whatever, this has to be taken into consideration. So there we saw the risk management for safety and job safety analysis, and the MSDS is one of the tools. So we talked about the definitions in general, and now we talked about the mentality on how to handle it. Now we're talking about the other items. So we're talking about interiors. Okay, what are the interiors? Facility interiors in general include all elements within a structure that are not actively supporting the structure. So what's an item that's not actively supporting a structure? Let's say partition walls, gypsum board walls, and so on, the partitions. They are not, their role is architectural, to separate rooms. They don't have any load-bearing part of it. So this is a definition of an interior. A typical interior is a complex mix of different yet integrated materials, furnishings, fixtures, and equipment, as well as openings, including interior walls, windows and doors, ceiling systems, floors, and floor coverings. So any item inside the building that's not actively supporting the structure as part of the facility is called an interior element. Acceptable indoor air quality, we saw in the facility module, in the sustainability module, and regarding the environment and quality, is that indoor air quality is 2 to 5 times more polluted than the outdoor quality. And because we spend 90% of our lives indoors, it's important to take care of that. Can be compromised if a building has been constructed so that air quality cannot be controlled and the amount of fresh air and humidity is limited. A big problem happens is that if at the design of the building there is no proper control for the fresh air. A key component of maintaining proper indoor air quality is the rate of ventilation and the amount of fresh air that's brought from outside to the inside. Out of the most persistent problems, as I mentioned, is the mold. Mold is an invasive and common problem in structures, especially in high humidity environment. And this smell, which I said, like if you go to places near the beach, you see that always that there's this smell, depending on the building, of humidity and mold. It may be hidden, occurring inside walls and ceilings, or anywhere, and moisture collects and cannot be readily observed. And this will affect not only the structure integrity, it will also affect the health, as I said, because the air quality will be less. Mold needs humidity, needs a humid environment, so there needs to be some sort of water to have mold build up. You need to have a humid condition, and you need what we call a nutrient. What means a nutrient? Mold will not form on a stainless steel plate, let's say. Why? Because there's nothing for it to cling to. Paint is a good nutrient because it will go and stick there and it will feed on it. Mold, in the end, these are kind of bacteria and they are living organisms. So they need something to eat on. So wood itself, there you will find mold, you will find it on paint, you will find it on other items as well. Assess grounds. So again, I go and summarize. We looked at the structure itself. The structure is, I will go quickly from this. We talk about the structure itself. The structure is formed of foundations, substructure, and superstructure. Structure is the skeleton of the building. Other than the structure, we have the building envelope. The building envelope is the outside doors, the roof, the aluminum cladding, the windows, the doors that are outside. And then inside of the building, we have the building systems, we have the electrical systems, the mechanical systems, we have the power systems, we have the access control systems, the CCTV camera systems. All of these are part of the building systems. And we looked at now, we covered the whole building. Now we're looking at the nearby, so the grounds. So the facility grounds include all exterior elements not attributed to separate structures, both landscaped and hardscaped areas. So the question about the landscape, these are the landscaped areas, landscaping, these are the planted areas. These are the hardscape, these items. And you can see that both of these items need maintenance, right? But the maintenance of this is different from the maintenance of this. Operations or maintenance are required for systems and equipment and to support occupational need. So why maintenance is needed? Because it's made of equipment. Equipment needs maintenance. You need to check the equipment. Okay. Facility managers refer to O&M for facility systems as hard services and O&M for occupant need as soft services. So again, this is another definition of the hard services and the soft services. The hard services, as per this, the definition is that for facility systems. So what are the facility systems? Like the lighting, temperature control, and so on. And for occupant needs, such as the soft services, so the cleanliness is under soft services because it's related to occupant needs, mail services, valet parking services, concierge services, and so on. Facility hard systems, such as the building structure, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, production equipment, represent a major portion of the organization's physical assets. It is the facility manager's responsibility to operate and maintain those assets. That responsibility begins when an asset is acquired. So a key point, as we said earlier, is that when we acquire the asset is that when we start purchasing them. And this is where we come to the why it's important from a mentality to include a facility manager, because usually construction companies are interested in getting the cheapest. They're contractors usually, and they're on a lump sum contract, and they are interested in getting the cheapest way for them to construct the equipment that matches the specifications and pull out. A facility manager, on the other hand, is when they are taking a decision on acquisition and buying of equipment, they're looking at the life cycle cost. Okay, I have a compressor A or a chiller A, and I have a chiller B. Chiller A, it costs me 2 million real. Chiller B cost me 3 million real, let's say. A construction company will directly go for chiller A if it meets the specification. Whereas the facility manager will go and ask, okay, chiller B costs 3 million, but what's the long-term cost of this? How much do I need to pay every month for energy bill between A and B? What's the efficiency? What's the lifespan of A and B? Let's say everything else is equal. They are both good quality or whatever, but the performance of energy is better for B, or even the life cycle cost. Maybe the maintenance of maybe B comes with even everything same, energy efficiency is the same, everything is the same. But B requires less manpower, less cycles for you to maintain. So again, so as a facility manager, there is a consideration on the longevity of the item, reliability and maintainability. As I said, how easy it is to maintain it, how reliable it is, performance and energy use, sustainability considerations. So how efficient it is it made from recycled material, and so on. So these are decisions which a facility manager would take. When acquiring new elements, the facility manager should favor resources that rank higher in relative sustainability. So after we take over a building, There is always add-ons. A building is that's why facility management is there. It's a living thing, you know. You always need to replace, you always need to expand, you always need to add, you always need to restructure, you always need to, particularly for larger things. So, and we're talking about the scales here for you to notice the differences. That, like, say, managing the facility for Qatar Foundation or the facility for Qatar University. So the facility itself is huge. It's a living organism. Sometimes they want to open one new university, they want to change this university, they want to add more labs to this university building. So at that level, there's a huge considerations for facility management. When acquiring new elements, sometimes you need to buy new elements. The facility manager should favor resources that rank higher on relative sustainability. So not all sustainability definitions are the same. We focus for modifications. Yes, for sure. They are an integral part of a facility manager. And this is where we will see the project management comes into place, because many projects you can do in-house and many more will be much larger than you. I gave the typical example of a roof. Maybe you go and you do part of your preventive maintenance, you check the roof, you find that it has deteriorated and needs leakage. So maybe it's just a simple replacement of a certain area, and for you to do it, and you can do it with your team. And maybe no, the building has gone old enough and you need to really change the whole roof. So, and you need to hire a contractor. Perpetual, so when we say that, when we're deciding is that when we go from the rankings of sustainability, so perpetual resources such as solar, wind, geothermal, and tidal energy, this is our preference, of course. Again, remember, when we take sustainability, we take about the triple bottom line. So this might be good for the environment, but might be not looked from. What do you mean, Ahmed Abdurrahman? The budget of what? The perpetual?
Depend on the budget. Perhaps modification.
Ahmed, what's the definition of sustainability as per IFMA?
Sustainability, the maintaining, yeah. Because perhaps I have no budget for making modification, which is more better.
What you're talking about, the operations now, the decision whether to take hire from outside or do it in house. That's what you're talking about.
The budget. What I mean is the budget is what control me is at the end the budget, the money. If I have some to make more modification, so okay. If I have no budget, so I have to restrict it to my budget.
For sure, there's a budget for a facility. That's why you learn about the facility management as a budget. For sure, every facility has a budget, and yeah, definitely it impacts the decision.
Many modification, and as you said, many modification to, for instance, a device, I can make it more better. I can buy not the same one. I can more technology, more high tech.
Yeah, more, but Ahmed, you're forgetting something. The definition of sustainability as per IFMA is where it means the triple bottom line. The triple bottom line, if you remember, and this is here on the slide, the profit and the economic part is one of it. It's not only talking only about the environment. We said that it should maintain the environment and it should make commercial sense as per your budget, and it should not affect the comfort of the people. So this is where a practice is truly sustainable. Okay, so I will continue. Ranking of sustainability. So, and it says here should favor resources that rank higher in relative sustainability. So IFMA has a very practical approach towards sustainability. They tell you is that, okay, adopt sustainable practices, but of course take into consideration sustainability by definition. As I said, if we're looking only at sustainability, then the whole buildings in the world will be operated by solar power because it's a perpetual source, it's for free. But then it doesn't necessarily meet the requirements of budget, and this is where it fails. So a truly sustainable practice is where all those three are maintained. Perpetual resources are the most preference for sustainability. Then we go to renewable and recycled resources, then recyclable resources, Then with reducible resources, so we can look into items which have less packaging, let's say, and the way they are handled. You can see sometimes they say that the packaging of this material is made from recyclable item. And final item is going in terms of preference from a sustainability perspective is the non-renewable resources. Non-renewable resources are the coal, oil, natural gas, which cannot be reused and will create, again, environmental impacts in terms of emissions and so on. Installing systems, material, and equipment. What's the definition of commissioning? Yalla, Ahmed, you're coming from construction. What's the definition of commissioning?
Commissioning is the same as testing.
Okay, fine. Firas, you wanted to put the definition of commissioning?
I didn't come from a construction company, but I believe it's the testing of the equipment and the integrity of the equipment if it's working. This is the commissioning.
Okay. Muthu Kumar, you wanted to give a definition also?
Yeah, so commissioning is a part of system to new system to commissioning.
Okay, so let me again clarify a little bit this. There's a misconception. Commissioning, yes, means testing. Okay, it's called testing and commissioning.
Yeah.
Okay, but more importantly, when we are testing and commissioning, is not only that we want to make sure that the equipment is operational. Okay, commissioning in terms of definition is that the process of evaluating, verifying, and documenting the performance of facility systems to ensure that they function to the intent of the design. So commissioning by definition is that they function to the intent of the design. What does that mean? That means that if I am commissioning a pump, that pump, why do we test it? We test that if it's meeting the performance requirements. Let's say that at so and so power, it should give me so and so head of water. So that's why when we do commissioning, we don't only test that it's operational. We are testing its performance and if it's meeting the intent of the design. And that's why commissioning is an important part of sustainability, if you remember, when we talked about commissioning. Okay, commissioning means that we make sure that it's done as per the intended design. And what happens is that we do initial commissioning during testing and commissioning and the handover of the equipment, let's say after construction. But okay, let's say we installed one pump, that pump is meeting the requirements. Most likely, if you're going to check this pump after 1 year, it will split, the performance will not be the same if it's not properly maintained. So that's why commissioning may occur at different times and in different ways. So if we go into it, so commissioning is a transition between installation. It consists of documenting the requirements, testing for functional performance, and establishing a baseline performance. So let's say if we are mapping the performance of the pump and the design of it as per the manufacturer is like this, and then we find out that during testing, we continue the testing and we make sure within the range, it is like that. But we are documenting that this is the baseline of my equipment. When I come and do a check afterwards and I see the performance has gone lower, it means that there is something that I need to bear into my mind. So that's why commissioning may occur at different times and in different ways. Retro-commissioning or recommissioning is a systematic process to investigate, improve, and optimize systems to support high performance and ensure functionality. So if I come and I check, let's say my water system is like this, the whole system is like this now. It has reduced in performance. Recommissioning, it means that I go and tweak the system again, do the same activities like I will do on a normal commissioning system, like do water balancing, change the operational sequence and so on, so that I go back into the better performance in which I was designed. One thing that has been made easier now with the use of smarter equipment is what we call continuous commissioning. So continuous commissioning is an ongoing approach to maintain systems at optimal performance at all times. Now, it doesn't apply to all systems, but for example, if you go and look at chillers now, real time, you will get to know what's the efficiency of your chiller. Now, what's the historic efficiency? How does it compare to the baseline? So you really don't have to do that. And that's why companies, you can go and buy a dumb chiller. And that's why this is another thing, is that when you go and buy a smarter system, which can give you this, your operational efficiency will be much higher. Maintenance. So why we do maintenance? What's the time now? Just give me 1 second, guys. See how many. We're probably gonna take a 10-minute break. Yeah. Okay, we are at halfway there. Let's take a 10-minute break, please, and let's be back at 8:30. It's more than 10 minutes. 12-minute break. Okay.
Okay.
See you. Bye. Yeah. Hi, everyone. We're continuing. So we looked at the operational side of things, and now we're looking at maintenance. What is maintenance? Maintenance is the work necessary to maintain the original anticipated useful life. Excuse me. Sorry. So maintenance is the work necessary. Give me a second, please.
Hmm. नहीं कॉल करा था
Yeah, excuse me. So maintenance is the work necessary to maintain the original anticipated useful life of a fixed asset. So what does that mean, the anticipated useful life? When we're talking about the useful life of an equipment, everything has a useful life. It means how much do we anticipate for it to be useful, like an average time for it to operate. So there's a useful life for any equipment that you buy. It can change depending on several things, and they try to, if it's consumer goods, for example, a mobile phone has an anticipated useful life. After which, for example, although it will be still functional nowadays, the reason why people are changing these are not because of that the equipment stopped operation. It's because that it's because, let's say, the technology has become obsolete. So there's an anticipated useful life. That's why we do maintenance, is to maintain the original or anticipated useful life of a fixed asset. So let's say, for example, we are expecting a chiller to have a practical useful life of, let's say, 20 years. So that's why we do maintenance, to ensure that it will last us for this time or this much of hours of operation. There are two types of maintenance, two general types, major types. We have and I mentioned this in the beginning, we have the planned maintenance and we have unplanned maintenance. Planned maintenance is what we call usually as a preventive maintenance. So we are doing it ahead of time. So this is where you take your vehicle and you do every certain hours of operation or months, you do a planned maintenance. You inspect, adjust, lubricate, paint, check for noise, odors, vibration, tighten connections in terms of equipment, the planned maintenance. You check system components, you check the level of oil. If it's an electrical system, you check the connections and so on. Another type of planned maintenance is predictive maintenance. Predictive maintenance is a more thorough analysis to see how long or in which condition we are. So an example of it is vibration analysis. Vibration analysis, let's say for equipment, we are able to understand what's the current shaft alignment that we are having. Is it out of line or no? Do we really need to take an action? Infrared thermography, for example, it can show us. So all of these non-destructive tests that we can do in order to understand in which condition we are having. Another example will be the oil analysis of an engine. We take the engine oil and we check it out. MGA, I don't know for sure, Ahmed. It's not on my head. So it's one of the predictive maintenance details are there. The definitions are up to finite detail in the book on each and every one of those. Corrective maintenance, yes, Sheikh.
So, as I can understand, predictive maintenance is part of preventive maintenance, like vibration and analysis will be part of inspection or kind of thing, or is it separately done?
these are examples. See, this can be a part of the corrective maintenance also. But predictive maintenance is that we are trying to analyze what is the, in what phase are we? What's the condition of this equipment? Is it, let's say, for an example of predictive maintenance that you do when you go and buy a second-hand car? Usually they go and they do for it a CO analysis, right? If you don't know, they go and check the emissions of the vehicle. Why they check the emissions of the vehicle? Because looking at the emissions of the vehicle, they will tell you a condition assessment. And then they will tell you, and they will check several things, and they'll tell you, look, your car is, the car that you're going to buy is 98% meeting the original condition, or it's 50%. So all of these are tools for you to utilize for maintenance to know that I am at which lifespan of the equipment. We will see the details of the lifespan of the equipment and how it is, and it will be visual later on. I will show it to you. So we are trying to do additional steps for us to understand how to handle that.
So you mean predictive maintenance could be like a statistical analysis or a measurement
sorry. Give me 1 minute.
parameters?
There's noise behind me. Sorry, give me 1 minute. I'll come back. Sorry. Yeah, guys, sorry for the interruption. So we're discussing regarding the predictive maintenance. We're trying to predict. It's like, for example, when you do, let's say you have a pipe or you have an engine and you suspect that it's having a problem, then you go and do an X-ray of it to see the condition of the weld, let's say, that was done several years back. So you are anticipating in which condition for you to understand what do I need to do. Do I need to replace this? Do I need to overhaul it or whatever? Unplanned maintenance is mainly the, yeah.
Another difference is like a fixed period, like preventive maintenance is periodically done over a fixed time of period, like every 6 months or every 3 months. Predictive maintenance does also have any fixed frequency, or is like can be done anytime?
You can do a part, it can be part of your planned maintenance. So in your vehicle, for example, let's say your vehicle, they go and every 5,000, they inspect the oil, they inspect, adjust the water level. They do all of these checkouts, okay? But then they say, okay, let's say every 40,000 kilometers, we need to do a CO analysis. So it can be part of a schedule. So this is what we mean by planned maintenance. It's already pre-planned. You can say, for example, every several thousand operations of the of the compressor, we're gonna do a vibration analysis, and so on. Unplanned maintenance, corrective maintenance is the main one. Usually it happens because no matter how many times we do the planned maintenance, we're gonna have failures. Processes are not perfect, equipment is not perfect, and it will fail. Corrective maintenance or emergency maintenance. Emergency maintenance is part of corrective maintenance, but it becomes more critical. And you will have, if you work in facilities, You must have had the experience where having phone calls in the middle of night telling you that the leak flood of a pipe burst. Okay, the same pipe, for example, in a different situation, maybe okay, maybe you have 2 months to repair it because it's in an area, you know it's broken, but it's in an area where it's not affecting your operations. Emergency like power outage, gas leak, chemical spill. So these are corrective maintenance, but that are having very high priority and immediate priority. Corrective maintenance includes, let's say, you go and a tile fell off, you need to correct it. So clogged toilet, damaged furniture, broken lock, vandalism, and so on. Why don't we do, if maintenance is so important, why don't we do maintenance all the time? Why? What's the logic? Why don't we invest more in time in preventive maintenance? The reason is that there is, although an organization should have more planned maintenance than unplanned, it's not prudent for facility manager to strive for 100% planned maintenance. So usually in our planning, we aim to increase the planned maintenance and to reduce the haphazard unplanned maintenance. Okay. But there is a point after which that if we increase the number of planned maintenance, it will not become cost effective. The labor hours spent in operation maintenance to generate an opposing cost, and there's a point of diminishing returns. So the similar thing is that why, for example, our vehicles, we go and change the oil of it only every 5,000 or 10,000 kilometers. Wouldn't the engine run better if we do it every 2,000? Hell yeah, it will. If we do maintenance every 2,000 kilometers for the vehicle, it will run much better. And we can go and do it. But we will be spending more money on it, which beats the purpose. There's a point where it will be like, it's too expensive for you to maintain, and it's better for you to let it run and fail. And then that's why, for example, for older vehicles, you don't go and do, many people don't go and do it in the company, in the authorized dealership, because they say it's not worth it, because whatever I'm gonna pay in preventive maintenance for the vehicle, okay, it's gonna be offset by the high fees which I get from those people. So similar for equipment, we have something that which we call reliability-centered maintenance. So reliability-centered maintenance is talking about the optimal point, the optimal balance between where it makes sense for us to invest in maintenance versus the actual cost of maintenance. So if you look at this, for example, the preventive maintenance here, where we are going to have high preventive maintenance, the prevention cost is high, right? And the repair cost is low because I'm doing more preventive maintenance. On the other extreme of it, if I'm running totally on reactive maintenance, I'm using a run-to-fail system. I will not touch my systems. I will not touch my HVAC systems. I will not touch anything. I'm going to have the prevention costs very low because I'm not investing in maintenance, but the repair costs are very high. So imagine you don't do maintenance for your car. You don't do any preventive maintenance for your vehicle. Do you consider what? Reactive maintenance as corrective maintenance? Yes. Usually it is. What does it mean, reactive maintenance? You have something broken down, so it means that you are doing a corrective maintenance. So it's the same definition. So reactive maintenance is that when you are having a run to fail thing. So in between those two, in between, and this is where the question that came earlier is that how do I know what's the maintenance schedule for it? Usually manufacturers look at this model. They consider a point after which the client is not going to pay more money. Okay, preventive, no car manufacturer will come. Actually, now they're working on improving their systems up to a point where they reduce the maintenance frequency. So there's an optimal design point, and this is what we call the reliability-centered maintenance, determines the best mix of preventive maintenance, predictive maintenance, proactive repairs, and run to failure approaches. So sometimes even as a facility manager for many equipment, you decide to have a run to fail. Some things are too small for you to really bother about and to worry about, and you decide, and the cost of it is very low, so you decide a run to fail. Usually when you're doing a smaller facility, like your house or whatever, you're not really actually going to do preventive maintenance. It's a smaller facility, and usually you go for the option of the reactive maintenance. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. But once you're talking about a huger facilities, once you talk about a university, you cannot run on a reactive maintenance principle. Otherwise, it's going to be a nightmare. Otherwise, you're going to be decimating the life of your equipment. And if an equipment is supposed to last for 50 years, by an approach of a run to fail, it's going to fall even less than half of this. There are many tools to maximize reliability and performance at the lowest cost, including the following: failure effects and mode analysis. So one tool that is used is that FEMA. The facility manager evaluates work relative to dollar value, work complexity, occupant dissatisfaction, and criticality to occupants, the facility and the organization's mission. Criticality can be ranked as values of most critical to the least critical to the facility mission and strategic plan. So one tool that you can utilize as a facility manager is that you decide based on your tolerance, okay, look, to me, for example, the occupants, a very critical thing is the HVAC system. So I will only focus on that. And whether they say it or not, different organizations adopt the same principle here. If you look at smaller compounds and things like that, the items which they maintain, they don't really invest in doing more. Let's say the basic. At the basic, they make sure that they are complying with the QCD requirement, because it's a regulatory requirement, and if they don't do that, someone is going to go to jail. So the QCD requirement, they do the fire check, fire alarm, fire and whatever once every year. They take care of, let's say, the AC maintenance, they do it once in a year. But other than that, the rest of the systems, they go on a system on a run to fail mode. If there's a problem in the electrical system, they will come and do it. No one will check it in between. If there's a problem in the sewage system, they will come and do it, and so on. So this is failure modes and effect analysis is a tool for you to utilize, which you identify which are the critical elements, which are the high risk elements, which are items which are low risk, and I'm willing to accept them. I'm willing to accept in a mall, in a compound, for example, let's say that the CCTV system fails. Depends on, again, you see the criticality to occupants and the organization mission. If I'm an organization which is selling luxury service, my tolerance for these items is going to be low, because at the end, I'm letting my clients pay a premium for this service. Once they pay a premium for this service, they're expecting to have, for example, the pool clean and neat at all the time. Whereas if I'm going for a budget option and my organization mission is to provide a low cost, then maybe that will be lower on my priority list. Root cause analysis is the systematic approach that aims at finding the underlying or root cause of a problem. So one of the tools is that we call root cause analysis. So this tool will be covering again in the quality in detail. And there's a model which is called the Ishikawa diagram or the fishbone diagram. Like, for example, the electronic mixer stopped working. We go and analyze why it might be. Is it from the people who are operating it, from the environment, from the equipment and material, or from the procedure? So we're going to the root cause of the problem. So let's say I'm having electric problem always occurring in the engine room. What's the root cause of it? Is it because of an overload? Is it because of a water leakage that's causing tripping? Is it because of lack of maintenance? Is it because of what? So this is again one of the tools that can be used. Age exploration or reliability analysis. So this is where a lot of the predictive maintenance come in. Age exploration or reliability analysis uses historical data to determine the probability of failure or for repair or replacement. Many BMS systems now offer this predictive maintenance. Siemens has it, for example. It goes because it has data of all the facility equipment, and it can tell you that based on our database for this type of equipment, your equipment is having this much failures, then we anticipate that it's not going to have a long time for it, and then it will suggest for you, for example, to replace it. By knowing the age and condition of the item, the facility manager can decide if maintenance should be made more intensive. As I said previously, once you go and analyze something, you will be able to understand where are we in terms of this equipment, what is happening, is it something that I need to pay more attention in maintaining, or it's still brand new? You can buy a second-hand car and it's still you go and test it out and they tell you it's still in very good condition, then you don't need to take additional measures. Or as they can tell you, okay, but be careful, for example, the hydraulic system is not there, maybe you do more maintenance for that in terms of equipment. Well, replace systems, materials, or equipment. Replacement is an integral part. Sometimes we have to dispose of equipment or replace them. Sustainability options is that we can reuse, which uses a product more than once, such as using maintenance rags rather than paper towels. Reduce, in which the quantity of item outputs is decreased. So either we reuse, we reduce, recycle, or salvage. Salvage is the process where we take the material and reapply it for another purpose without being recycled or otherwise. So for example, I remove the doors from one area, I go and cut them, got the wood out of them, and I utilize them as a fence for one of the building groups. So this is what's called salvaging. So, recycling is that we go and we reprocess it into a new raw material. So this is the difference between the two. Recycling is that, let's say I have a glass door, I go and take it and then they melt it down and they can use it on something else. Salvaging is that I reapply it in a different way. I remove the steel structure which was in the parking lots, I cut the pipes and I made out of them a fence for the generator area. Manage and oversee. So we talked about the hard services, we talked about how to look at them, and now we're looking at the occupant services. The term occupant services refers to anything that the facility or visitors might need beyond the operational maintenance of the hard assets of the building and its system. So it's whether the facility occupants, visitor, or owner might decide that they will be offering this. It's not our job as a facility management to decide which services that we should be providing, okay, but it's our job to administer and run and make sure that these get delivered to what is needed. So for example, some even for in Qatar University, in some areas, or in Qatar Foundation, some areas they're offering valet services. So these valet services, it's not decided by the facility management. Someone in the management of the building or the college or the center decided that they will providing this, but it's the job of facility management to administer this requirement. Occupant services might occur facility-wide, such as waste removal, custodial cleaning, or delivered to specific areas, such as information security or child care. Examples include, so this is to show you how big is facility management and what range does it cover. It's not only about maintaining the equipment. It's not a continuation only of the construction thing. It's related to operation. So custodial, like cleaning, trash removal, restroom refreshment, cleaning and refurbishing, window washing, floors, fixture replacement, waste management, food service. It can be like coffee, cafeteria, dining, and so on. So parking, pickup, delivery, vehicle security, concierge, help desk, greeting, directing, support for individuals, mail, pickup, distribution, packaging and shipping, managing recollections and moving changes, information technology, equipment procurement, maintenance, and disposal. So there is a huge range of services that can be provided, and depending on the facility, I gave an example, Qatar Foundation. Qatar Foundation has tens of buildings, and different buildings offer different things. Many cafeteria and catering in different buildings, many parking areas in different buildings. Cleaning is very common. The hard maintenance is very common. Some areas there is a concierge. It may be under the facility management or maybe under the management itself. We talked earlier about integrated facility management. Integrated facility management is a concept where companies provide a full solution under one umbrella, including the hard and soft services. So it includes everything from A to Z. And this is a concept which is gaining traction globally. While facility managers may not be responsible for deciding which occupant services are provided, they are responsible for assuring that the desired level of service and the right mix of service are provided. So facility managers might not be deciding on the services, but the desired level. So for example, we need a valet parking server to ensure that your vehicle gets retrieved within 3 minutes. This is a measurement. To determine guideline for occupant service performance, we identify the needs and expectations. So if, let's say, they put the cafeteria under us, what do they want? What kind of food? How diverse? What's the price range, and so on? Evaluate needs, implement the plan, and measure performance. Facility environment priorities. The facility manager may determine how to measure for quality by applying guidelines. Last time I mentioned, and there'll be a different module for that regarding quality. And I like to repeat things which I find that being stressed by IFMA. Quality is determined by the customer. It's not determined by the facility manager. But it's a job of the facility manager to understand what the customer wants and needs and expects. The facility manager may determine how to measure for quality by applying guidelines such as the following: safety, cleanliness, comfort, accessibility, productivity, energy savings, aesthetics, replacement or renovation. There are several kinds of system considerations that affect work priorities. Best mix of the reliability. So the priorities can change. Reliability, productivity, maintainability, redundancy, and instructions are to be utilized in a work plan to decide the priorities. Execute modifications to occupant services. The alterations refer to the work required to change the interior arrangement. So this is a very common thing which is done by facility managers. The alterations and the changes, more frequent, especially in, as I said, we're not talking about, when you talk about facility management, we're just not limiting it to, even in that building, they'll have changes. One building which is doing one, I think, we're talking about bigger facilities and as a rule of thumb. Alterations refer to the work required to change the interior arrangements or other physical characteristics of an existing facility or of installed equipment. Alterations may include were referred to as improvement, conversion, rehabilitation, remodeling, or modernization. So sometimes it can be for aesthetic reasons. The change sometimes can be for a functional reason, like we are having a studio for we want to change it into a lab inside a college, or modernization. Our library has become obsolete and we need to modernize it. We need to include smart systems to manage it. Churn, this is a definition I mentioned several times, and it's an important term for you to know. Churn is a description to the amount of movement and relocation of occupants within an organization within a specified period. Churn, so is the rate at which of movement and relocation of occupants within an organization. High churn rates generally indicate rapid growth. So in a company which is growing rapidly, they will be changing offices more frequently. But it can also result from poor business planning and poor management of space resources. So if there's proper planning, the churn rates should be reduced. If there is improper planning, so we go and we are a changing organization. One day we take an office We think that we're going to be expanding. We go and hire a more expensive office, a bigger space area. We were considering it that we will grow the business. Then 1 year back, next down the line, we find out, no, we need to shift to a smaller office, and so on. So planning makes it much better. Selecting the best resources. We talk about service level agreements. Service level agreement is the part of a service contract. So we're talking about, when you talk about hard contracts, talk about general contracts, and service level agreements are agreements which you sign usually for the soft services. So service level agreement is a part of or for service contracts in which service expectations are formally defined. A basic service level agreement contains these elements: statement of works. Okay, what are the works that are going to be involved in it? So the service level agreement is, for example, for the cleaning of the airport, Hamad International Airport. The level of service, what kind of level of service we are expecting. Measurements, how are we going to measure the performance? And we will see that there's a descriptive or prescriptive measurement. What does that mean? Is that I'm gonna rate you by the number of people. So I'm expecting you to provide, let's say, 200 people, and I'm expecting you to do the routine by doing so much visits to the toilets every day. And I'm expecting that anytime a random inspection is there, that it's always ensured that a certain level of cleanliness is there. Oversight measures, let's say in the case that there was spillage, then within 20 minutes or 2 minutes, you should send someone to go and clean it. Incentives, so there can be incentives for good performance. Let's say if you maintain energy efficiency within this range, we will get this. Or there can be penalties. And this is, again, very common. You can see it in service level agreements. Let's say for the maintenance of elevators, they give you a reaction time of 20 minutes. If you're not coming within that in case of an emergency, they will penalize you. And there'll be rates of penalties for that. The work schedules can be identified in the service level agreements. So for example, cleaning of the airport, we're expecting you to have a team 24 hours. And let's say on holidays to include more people because we are expecting more traffic to come to the airport. Standard operating procedures, how you operate, what's the modus of operandi. Select competent service providers. KPI, key performance indicators. Yes, this can be part of the measures and level of service, for sure. For sure, Yusuf. They are part of the service level agreement. Because it says here, you know, over measurements. So when we say measurements, the KPIs are part of it. The key performance indicators. I'm going to mention you based on one. Outsourcing, what does outsourcing mean? Well, outsourcing is another term for subcontracting or giving it out rather than doing it internally. Someone open their mic.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you please elaborate on oversight measures? I didn't get it.
Oversight by definition means that what do you mean by oversight? In case you did something wrong, unintentional failure. So if let's say that, okay, you are supposed to maintain something, what's the penalty? Let's say this is oversight measures, for example, penalty or your corrective action. Let's say someone is this, and let's say you miss the PPMs, you are expected to rectify the situation within 24 hours. So this is oversight measures, it means. And this is usually contained. It can or cannot contain this, but usually contracts will include, let's say, if failure for you to do this, usually contracts will have, you're expected to do so and so. Failure of you should be do a corrective action within 24 hours. If not, you will be subjected to so and so penalty or maybe terminated. So this is the oversight measurement as meant here. Considerations for contracting. So outsourcing means that going, what's the difference between service level agreement and KPI? A KPI is part of a service level agreement. A KPI mentioned as the key performance indicator. A service level agreement means a contract. So this is the service level agreement, but contract for services. The KPI is a part of the contract. So I hope Isaac that answers your question.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Considerations for contracting, it means that why do I go outside? Why do I go rather than doing things internally usually? There are many reasons for us to use that. Okay, there are advantages and disadvantages for it. Capacity to provide aligned or extension of services, communication culture, relationship with facility manager in performance of services. Usually it's like the lease or buy situation. Is that why do we need to contract or take internally? Depending if I have the skills in-house, how frequently am I going to do it, how critical it is for my operations, and so on. How specialized am I? So for example, if I'm elevators, I mentioned elevators, not facility managers, management companies usually give the elevator pipe part of it outside. They give it to the specialist because the specialist is much more trained and better equipped to handle this. They have access to spare parts. They are doing hundreds of elevators outside. They are much better. Gas systems is another one. BMS systems depends. So there is depending on the criticality of it and the advantages and disadvantages. So there might be cost control if I go outside. It can be cheaper for me to go outside. So for example, in the example of elevators, for me to get the same level of things, if I want to do it internally, it costs me much more. Possible improvement in service quality, less liability if I'm off, fresh ideas, best practices, less involvement in internal politics, gain in expertise, better operating efficiency, latest technology and tools, flexible string. Disadvantages, so all of these make sense. You know, why will I go outside? Sometimes it's better cost control. We're going to more specialized people. I don't need to do everything in-house. I have flexibility. Today I need 200 cleaning people. Tomorrow I need 300. If I'm going outside, I'll be able to manage this and reduce and add as I want. Much easier than if I have them and I hire them. Disadvantages, lack of loyalty. When I'm hiring somewhere is that there's a risk of lack of loyalty because the contractor is there to make money, whereas my employees are there to serve the company. A loss of immediate control, no ownership means that they care about their heart and loyalty is not there. Different agenda, money for contractor, unfamiliar with the business culture. So sometimes that the alignment, which we talked about a lot, is that from strategically point of view is that we are a company which provides this level of service, this level of reaction. Maybe my subcontractors don't share the same mentality. Contract restrictions, performance gaps not visible, poor service unless measured, training curve costs. So it's like the lease or buy option. There's usually a decision has to be made between whether I should subcontract or do it internally. Negotiations, you see how IFMA brings everything integrated all over again. We talked about this in communication. We talked about this in managing human resources. In negotiating contracts, there are different ways. Win-win, win-lose, lose-win, or lose-lose. Everyone ideally talks about, oh, it's a win-win situation. What's a win-win situation? Is that we go for the basic assumption that you and I can work together to ensure that we both benefit from the negotiation. Win-lose or lose-win, it means that one party will come out winning. And in a win-lose is that I will only come out winning from this. Lose-win is that I've been set to lose this negotiation, like I have my arm twist, but I will go down fighting. Lose-lose, neither of us will benefit from negotiating, but I will still put up a fight. So needless to say is that we try to make our relationships with our suppliers in a win-win case, and many people actually don't see that. Many try to negotiate from a win-lose situation. It means that, okay, I will make the money, I will do all the savings, and I will screw you. If you do this to your suppliers, you're not going to get the proper loyalty from them. You're not going to get them make you as your preferred client. So it's always better to take the need of the other party to still make a profit and to still be happy about the deal. And this is where smart management comes into place. If you're looking only at screwing them and squeezing them out of every penny, you will not be their preferred choice. And maybe if they are happy with your service, making a reasonable profit, they will be more reactive to you and support you better. The service level agreement is a useful tool to monitor work and identify discrepancies, because it's a baseline and the dealing between me and the contractor, whether the work is performed by internal or contracted service. So the service level measures the level of performance that I expect. Incentives, we talked about incentives and penalties. We talked about penalties. Here there are incentives. Contracts can be reward-based and may offer incentives for meeting work requirements. There are certain incentives. So there is a cost plus contract. This is in contracting. Hold the contractor to an agreement on maximum expenses and rewards with a bonus when costs remain at all. So you can create, I don't see much of these types of contracts here in the local culture. Cost plus award is that usually the costs are fixed price. There are some fixed price incentive. In what sense? Is that they will usually depend on that, like they will sign with you a 3-year contract and it will be negotiable, renewed automatically, or a 1-year contract renewed automatically if your performance meets a certain criteria. And this is an incentive for you to provide a good performance. So a fixed price incentive provide added remuneration or other incentives if the contractor meets or stays beneath a targeted cost. Cost plus award. So we're talking about the cost plus contracts. Cost plus award contracts hold the contractor to an agreement on the maximum expenses and rewards with a bonus when the costs remain or at below the expenses. Award term, this is the one which I mentioned. Contracts award contractors who consistently meet specified goals by extending or adding more years or expanding tasks to the current contract. Monitor work service performance, evaluate through best practices. Best practices are techniques or approaches that consistently provide the desired result across an industry or within an organization. In FM, some general best practices are driven to produce the following: occupant satisfaction, the client, financial best value, emphasis on the facility core mission, effective and efficient operation. We've been mentioning these terms over and over again. We've been mentioning that the occupant or the customer is the one who determines the quality, but that has to be also measured with the financial best value, because we cannot really provide anything that the customer wants. It has to make financial sense. And emphasis on the facility core mission. We talked also always about the core mission of the facility. We talked about the values and the strategy of the business, and we've seen how that if you are having a focus on quality, if you're having a focus on reliability, it will take a different kinds of operation. And we talked about efficiency and effectiveness. Effectiveness, it means that we do what's needed and what's intended and it's effective. It gets the result done. Efficient is the cost aspect of it. How efficient are we? We've seen it even in terms of the design of the workspace. Resolve contract disputes. Contract disputes happen. And the best way to resolve contract disputes is from the design of the contract itself. So proper contracts, or most proper contracts, is that they anticipate for a dispute from the beginning, and A well-crafted service level agreement or contract gives both the supplier and facility manager the basis for discussing a conflict with a clear statement of work and complete terms and conditions. So usually there'll be like an escalation clause. In the case of this, we hire a third party, we do some third party negotiations, and if not, we do go to arbitration and to legal course of action. And the legal course of action will be in Qatar, for example, as per the Qatari law, or can be under international law in a different jurisdiction. It's better if we have the mechanism to handle this. I've seen contracts where people, they suggest, let's say, if they're not able to resolve it, we will hire a third party to come and mediate. So the benefits of it is that it establishes standards that likely relate to an issue in question. It provides a basis for the perspective and range for viewing an issue. It controls the protocols or rules for how to approach the other party with an issue in question. It supports pragmatic and measurable methods to progress and resolve issues. Measuring performance and maintenance, operations and maintenance performance. The life cycle cost analysis. We talked about this in the financial sector. The financial module, we talked about the life cycle analysis and the total cost of ownership. So these are tools in which we consider when we are considering the purchase of equipment or an asset. We're considering the total cost of ownership. We're talking the cost from the what did we call it? From cradle to grave. So from the beginning itself, if I need, what are the costs in terms of the research and design, the tooling, equipment, evaluation, then the overhead cost and the purchase cost, and then the utilization cost, and even the disposition cost. Disposition cost, the maintenance, the learning curve, regulatory requirements, and so on. So we're talking about the life cycle cost analysis, LCCA. Total cost of ownership is a financial management strategies that account for the complete life cycle, cradle to grave measurement and management of a physical assets useful life. It's a very important tool for us to utilize in facility management, because as I said, in facility management, we're looking at the lifespan of this. When I was talking to you earlier about the asset useful life, a useful life refers to, yes, someone has a question?
Yeah, excuse me, but can you go back to the previous slide? Can you give us a fine example of the total cost of ownership?
I mentioned it earlier. Let's say I'm considering between, let me give you one between the two. I want to install, I'm going to make it a simple one. I'm going to install, I'm considering options. Let's say I have a warehouse and they want it now refrigerated. Okay, they want to have an AC system there. And I'm doing a cost comparison of the different systems. One system, for example, I can go and install window ACs all over the place. Another system is that I can install a packaged unit and I service the whole area. Let's say comparing between these two options. When I compare between these two options, I consider the whole total cost of ownership. And let's say even if I'm selecting different brands of equipment, what's the total cost of equipment? Option A, how much is going to be the design cost? Is there going to be a design cost? Is there going to be a difference in the construction cost between option A and option B? If I'm installing a package system, it will have a different power requirements. Okay, so the initial cost maybe will be higher for a package system. The installation of window ACs all over the place is going to be cheaper, let's say. Then I go into the second phase, in the operation phase. And the operation phase, for each refrigerated tonnage, okay, what's going to be the power consumption for each system? Most likely for the Windows ACs is going to be much, much higher. So when I'm comparing over the lifespan of, let's say, what's the expected life cycle? Let's say, okay, if I install a system, let me be conservative and I'm expecting it to run for the next 15 years. So the option A will have certain costs in terms of design, build, operation, maintenance, and even disposal and change and upgrade. Option B is going to have these things. So when I'm comparing, I'm not only comparing the initial costs of A and B, I'm comparing the full life cycle cost of A and B. Clear?
Yeah, this is more in favor of the client. True?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
This is the concept. Maybe you joined in later, Firas. I see there's a tendency due to the nature of the work here in Qatar, many of the class members are coming from a construction background. It's a totally different mentality than when you're looking from facilities. And even facility management in the concept here is not the contracting service of facility management. We're talking about facility management about managing the facilities from a client perspective, because in the end, that's how it should be.
Yeah, clear.
Okay. Okay, so when we talked about the life asset useful life, same equipment, different brands will have a different asset useful life. The useful life refers to the generally expected time that the component can be left in service before it will start to experience a rapidly increasing probability of failure. So that's why we call this degradation curves. The degradation curves estimate the rate and probability at which a component, piece of equipment, or system may continue to meet or achieve its intended function. So if we have the same item, let's say a generator, you can buy Cummins. Those of you who know gensets, Cummins, one of the best generators in the world. Or you can buy even Rolls-Royce, let's say. I don't know, Rolls-Royce generators. They make very good generators, by the way, but they make more turbines, I think. I don't know if they're making generators now. Or you can go for a Perkins, and you can go all the way to, let's say, just consider that. So Rolls-Royce, they might have a better long life asset. Okay, so the medium one will have a medium life asset. Versus you can go and buy the same equipment. You can buy it from a cheap Chinese manufacturer with all the respect to Chinese manufacturing, but many of them can come and you can get a short life asset thing. If you look at the functional failure, here in a short life asset, after a certain time, the probability of failure becomes higher. In a long life asset, it's the condition gets prolonged, and the better the equipment, the more longer the curve is going to be versus having a sharp thing. Okay, so data measuring tools to measure, again, are other tools to measure total cost of ownership and life cycle cost, reliability-centered maintenance, total productive maintenance, design for maintainability. If you look at the degradation curves, you can see that the condition of the equipment, the quality, okay, versus time. Okay. So here, initially, with the long life asset, you have an accepted quality level, and then it reaches a point where it drops. Think of vehicles, for example, for you to make it easy on the end. Just let me clear this. Okay. Think of vehicles, for example. If you are buying, let's say, what do I want to say? A Toyota. It may have a very long life asset because the condition will still remain acceptable, okay, with routine maintenance for a longer time. Versus, let's say, you're buying, why people don't go for the Chinese cars, or it'll have a short life asset. Okay, after a few periods, it's going to go, and it's cheaper, yes, but it will degrade rapidly. So that's why when we consider life cycle costs, we're considering the initial cost of purchase and for how long this will last us. Determining performance measurements. Always we come to the SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time framed. So key performance indicators, Isaac, are part of the service level agreements. So they are metrics that stipulate outcomes critical to the success of the organization. They are identified so that operation and maintenance activities can be measured against expected results. KPIs usually summarize or collect lower level performance measurements into representative critical outcomes. They might be qualitative or quantitative. So what's a qualitative KPI in terms of facility manager, for example? Like I mentioned, let's say when I have an elevator shutdown, I'm expected to have it operational, let's say within 30 minutes. This is a quantitative one because it's quantified. Qualitative is the quality of it. So let's say maintain an acceptable clean environment, let's say. Quantitative, maintain the noise pollution lower than 80 decibels at any point in the facility. The SMART approach is a way to develop key performance indicators that represent the critical facility management goal. SMART is an acronym that is the specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. SMART goals. We cover those for personal goals, and they apply to facilities. So whenever you set a goal, a golden rule is to utilize SMART goals. Another tool is to use the balanced scorecard. We see this model coming over and over again, and that to measure the performance not only on the financial aspect, okay, you need to look into it from the customer side, from the employee side for learning and growth, and from the internal business process principles. We've covered this in depth in other models, but here again, in terms of the operation and maintenance, again, everything can be consolidated under a balanced scorecard. So the balanced scorecard views the organization from 4 perspectives: stakeholder, measures that reflect the satisfaction of customer or occupant. This is the customer in this case. Internal measures reflect performance of key performance processes. Learning and growth measures reflect on the organization's learning curve or capabilities and position, and the financial measurement. The balanced scorecard always considers that financial measurement alone is a hindsight. In the end, okay, it's a very important thing, but for us to continue the longevity of a business, you have businesses such as Coca-Cola who have been running in this planet for more than 100 years. They've been doing that not only by focusing on the financial bottom line. Of course, the financial bottom line is very important to them and it's clear, but they are focusing on other things. They are focusing on their customers, making sure that their customers are always satisfied. They're focusing on their internal business processes and their employees and the learning and growth. And this is what the balanced scorecard focuses on. Monitor occupant satisfaction. Quality occupant service is motivated and determined by several considerations. I have always said that occupants and customers determine what defines quality, not the facility manager or owner. You can say that I have the most comfortable hotel in the world, okay? But you can say that, but it might not be remotely related. And you might think genuinely that you are providing the best service, but it's not you in the end who decides. It's the client and the visitor who decides. There should be continuous improvement. So there's a separate model for quality, and that's why it's very much integral to the IFMA. It's a separate model. And again, quality is not a goal which you reach. Quality is centered on continuous improvement. Perfection is never reached. It's put as a model, but it's a continuous moving circle. The facility manager and owner executive need to be willing to measure occupant satisfaction. So certain things that are taken into consideration to secure that we have the proper environment for quality is that there should be, again, a commitment to measure the occupant satisfaction and understand the importance of it. And the facility manager, maintenance staff, and contractors should be willing to do that. The facility manager should use a total quality management approach, TQM, towards occupant satisfaction standards. As I said, it's critical quality, what you are providing in whatever you're doing, and that's why there's a separate module which discusses quality. When we were discussing previously, I mentioned to you that the top complaints that happen, and this is based on research in facilities, number one, that it's either too cold or too hot. Second one is the poor indoor air quality, like there is a smell or something like that. Cleanliness is very important, and again, there are a lot of complaints on that. Other than that, there is no privacy, not enough conference rooms, inadequate parking, computer problems, too noisy, high noise levels. So that was it for tonight. We will go through the questions now. Which of the following is typically not a component in a plumbing system?
Option D.
Delta.
Delta.
Correct. Second question. GSA, which is the job safety analysis, and the material safety data sheets are designed for what purpose?
Alpha.
A. Option A. Alpha.
Yes. At a minimum, mold or fungi can grow wherever there are variable mold spores, an acceptable temperature range. So when there are mold spores, acceptable temperature range, a consistent moisture source, and
Pollutants.
C.
Nutrients.
Radon.
Nutrients.
D.
C. Nutrients.
C.
C.
Oh, sorry. It's nutrition paint. C.
C. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of the following is not typically considered as an example of a soft occupant service?
Inspection, testing, commissioning.
Yeah, it's D.
Delta.
Anyone
Delta.
has?
Inspection and testing and commissioning.
True. A typical occupant service planning approach identifies needs, evaluates, communicates, implements a plan, and
Measurement performances.
It's a measure performance.
true. The last part of the cycle usually is measuring performance, seeing where we are, and then using it as an input to improve our performance. To determine the right mix of occupant services, the facility managers consider
The opinion of occupants and owners.
Okay, let's see.
any other
To
suggestion.
opinion.
Alpha.
Alpha. To opinion for occupant.
Okay, it's true.
What do you mean by the right mix? Sorry, right mix.
An activity that has a high mission relevance and requires low expertise. So an activity that has high mission relevance and requires low expertise would
C.
C is wrong. Why? Most often
It's
require
it's A delta. Alpha. A. Generally
D.
by perform the contract service.
No, most
No,
like
most likely represents
D.
a good
Most-
option for staff assignment.
represent a good option for
this is
staff
high
assignment.
mission relevance. This is
I
something
mission
critical.
relevance.
Something critical to you.
Generally,
You don't give it
alpha.
to a factor.
Sorry,
Alpha.
option
A for
Alpha
alpha.
is wrong.
D. No, option D.
Delta last.
D.
True. So
No,
high
sir.
mission relevance, it means that it's very critical for us, and it's saying that it doesn't require specialized experience. So better we do it ourselves rather than giving it outside. Outsourcing or outtasking is the process of
D.
Contracting for services.
Contracting person service.
that's easy. The most effective way to resolve contract disputes is by
Contracting.
Bravo, bravo.
Alpha?
B.
SLA is B. B.
SLA.
B.
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 SLA.
B.
B.
True.
B. Yeah.
So if you are having a clear contract which classifies what's expected from you, what you should do, how will you be measured, the conflict is going to be left because you understand what's expected from you. So that was it for tonight. If you have any question, please come up. If not, we will close. Anyone has a question?
Can you please go to second question answer slide? There was a right mix occupant survey.
Just give me 1 second. Yeah. Which one?
The last one on the slide, to determine a right mix occupant survey. What it implies, the right mix survey? The last one, yeah.
Yeah. Who determines what needs to be done? You are deciding you are having a resort, okay, and you want to see what thing to consider. You consider the options of occupants and the owners. These are the stakeholders of this. The other options, only lowest cost and highly competitive contractors, low bid requests for services, or staff over contract. How do you decide if you want to include, let's say, any kind of service, a custodial service or a valet parking service? You are considering the opinion of you.
Occupants, yes, sir.
Okay?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Ahmad, you have a question?
Yes, actually, Mr. Bha, I am facing problem in my work. I need to know your advice.
Yes.
The landlord or the client that I'm working with him, actually, we are in the final stage for handing over from the contractor. And the issue is that he wants me like now to be, I am the facility manager. But the issue is that he does not want to hire a company because as per contract and QCS, it is stated that 400 for maintenance monthly. So, are you with me, Mr. Baha?
Yeah, I'm muting everyone because I'm, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the issue is now, I will be now the only one which I will handing over from the contractor, and he does not want to hire any facility management because as per contract it is 400 days. So as per QCS also for instance the HVAC, the contractor should come monthly and periodically check. After
How
that,
big is the facility you are having? What kind of
you can say a villa, but a large villa with landscape, with irrigation, with HVAC system, central like that. So what you suggest me to do? Because now he put too much responsibility. I'm actually electrical engineer, and now HVAC. Of course, I will not understand everything in mechanical, and some things will be passed from me. I don't know the spare parts, the filters, or like that. So how to deal with the situation? You want me to be the connection after the 400 days? I have to learn or teach the team or something like that. But now he does not want to hire anyone for saving the money and as per contractual. So what do you suggest, Mr. Bah?
This is again a problem of the mentality in which things are run here. He is hiring you now just for that reason or what?
Yes. Actually, for that reason only. Now he told me you are the one, you will be responsible for everything. So it is too much on me, and I'm not Superman, and I'm electrical engineer only, just electrical. So
I think it's better to discuss this between you and me, and to understand more about this. But again, this is a common thing here. There's a misconception of this. So we'll discuss with you. I will understand from you who owns what and what's his intention. Is it something to be contracted out? What is your interest in this? Based on that, I can give you a better recommendation.
Okay.
Can I add something, Mr. Bara?
Yeah, sorry, but this is not, I'll come a second, Firas. This is not something not common. I've seen clients who spend literally maybe up to 600, 700 million, even more, 1 billion on a property, and then we'll go cheap on the maintenance of that. And they will not understand that it's not cost effective even for them from an asset management perspective. But that's why it depends on the size of this. If it's a small villa, maybe it's manageable. Maybe we'll find a solution to help you how to handle this.
Okay, so I call you my phone later, Mr. Bahar?
Yeah. Maybe call me tomorrow during the day.
Okay.
Text me and then give me a call.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Okay, anytime. Firas, yes.
I just want to add something, Mr. Bahar. Basically, from my experience, I believe he should identify, first of all, what specialized service he have and understand the DLP, because some systems vary from other systems. For example, elevators, the DLP cover the preventive maintenance and the corrective. Chillers, they cover only the spare parts. They don't cover the preventive maintenance. So you have to understand the DLP first of all. And based on that, you will suggest to the client that you have to do this and that.
Yeah, for sure. That's the basis. But he's talking is that the client is looking beyond the DLP even. And he's saying that he is wondering how he has the capacity to handle it. So basically what the client is needing in this case, as you said, he's asking for a design of what, and he's using, this is typical. They think that the construction people will know how to maintain it. And I come from both fields, and I know it's a quite different field between the two.
Yeah, I see. All right.
Okay, then. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
If there is no more questions, I will be closing this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.